Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our latest edition of Stage 2 of the Quake Pro League. My name's Ketchup, joined by Flea, and we just wrapped up Series number 1. Base was able to take a 3-0 over Garpy, although 2 of those 3 maps were damn close. So I hope that is a taste of things to come for more close maps to come. On that note, our next map is definitely going to be, for me, an interesting sequence, Flea, because we have Effortless versus cha1n. cha1n had a bit of a wake-up call, I think, last week. Effortless just had a difficult opponent, right? And I think cha1n's going into this week maybe probably more motivated than last.
I'm inclined to agree. cha1n lost to Nosfa last week, and I think that was one of the biggest upsets of week 1. So clearly cha1n, I think he talked about it on Twitter as well, saying that he can do better. Nosfa, of course, very happy with his performance, and deservedly so, but I do agree that cha1n is probably more motivated than he was previously to really show what he's capable of. And then on the other hand, Effortless lost to the Hang 3-0. The Hang, of course, one of the greatest players in NA, so no real surprises right there on Effortless's end, but still, I do think that Effortless is motivated too. He didn't quite perform as well as he wanted to, I think, in the Stage 1 finals, losing both of his games after winning that relegation match against Supreme GTI, so I do hope that Effortless is going to surprise us today.
There's always a chance for it. I don't go into too many series, really having much doubt in Effortless these days, because very recently as well, he's just been a very kind of dedicated, head down, focus, and just grind. There's been a lot more of that coming out from Effortless, really, in all kinds of games, and with Quake, which is his absolute focus. He's been able to, I really think, just try and better himself as a player, which is always great to see. We do see that. We always see that kind of moment where a player goes, right, now it's time to we grind, we just try and get as many of these wins as possible. Now, that sounds almost comically vague, but we have seen that with a lot of players. cha1n was one of them. cha1n stuck his head down. He just went on the absolute marathon of practice, and then in about a year he became what is definitely said to be the number 2 in NA right now, with how things are currently going. And I feel like that's kind of the beginning of Effortless's journey, and it's great to see him have that level of dedication.
Yeah, definitely. I do think he has a lot of potential, and I love the comparison with cha1n. cha1n started off the kickoff of the Quake Pro League, I think, in 14th place, and then very quickly worked himself up towards the higher echelons of NA Quake. So I do think that is something that Effortless can strive to achieve as well. Last time these two players went head-to-head was actually in week 2 of the previous stage, and that was cha1n winning convincingly 3-0. So no doubt Effortless is going to want to rectify that situation this time around.
Yeah, I think the 3-0 is a safe prediction here, but it really just depends on what kind of cha1n we're getting today. I think on that note, let's continue what we're talking about, but we'll look at the picks and bans so we can see the maps and champions. But cha1n is the favorite of this set. I don't think there's much need to, but here we go. Exile getting picked here by Effortless, where we have the Galena versus the Ranger. We have Awoken after that one, Keel versus the Strog, and then Veil of Nath again, which was always a pretty popular map with the Americas, I always thought, with Veil, but that's BJ versus cha1n. But gonna be honest, interesting to see some Exile in action.
Absolutely, I think this is the first time in the Quake Pro League that we get to see that map sync error. No doubt happy about that one. It is a very interesting map. Quite a lot of stage hazards, a lot of these death falls and big pits players can get swallowed by, so both will have to be careful. And we get indeed Galena versus Ranger. Second map, Awoken. Effortless going for the movement on the Strog, whereas cha1n is going for the grenades and the damage with the Keel. And then finally, Veil of Nath coming around again. cha1n versus the BJ. BJ and cha1n are both staple picks on that map.
I think Exile appropriately picked, as it is bloody cold in the UK at the moment. I'm sure it is in all other parts of the world, but yeah, it's a little bit chilly in this office, I will admit. But as we now go into that first map, which I think gives Effortless a bit of a chance here, though, because we've seen it before, and we talk about it regularly, but these new maps, these maps where people are going to be, I don't want to say less familiar, because everyone will practice maps, especially once they become part of the competitive rotation, but the newer introductions to the game, if you are a player that is a clear-cut favorite, there's always this opportunity that there's a champion or a playstyle or something hidden up someone's sleeve. And we have seen that a bunch in Quake Pro League, in tournaments before Quake Pro League even began. If we have new content, when it's only been in a competitive rotation for a short amount of time, there's no way you can be ready for everything. And if you are the player that is going into this as the underdog, which Effortless definitely is, I think of all three of these maps, he has a good chance here if he's able to be basically more prepared for Exile than cha1n is.
Yeah, absolutely. Those new maps, they're always a bit of an unknown, and I am very excited to finally get to see Exile being played. We're loading into the map as we speak, so the action is going to be brought to us momentarily. Ranger versus Galena. I think Ranger, pretty decent, solid pick for this map, right? There is quite a bit of verticality, a lot of these dangerous pillars down at rail that you can easily escape from by using the orb, but on the other hand, also a very crucial teleport or a few bounce pads that you can easily use those totems to deny access with. So,
if I were to put you on the spot, Flea, and ask, who do you think is better prepared for this map? Because prediction-wise, I think we can both agree that a 3-0 is our predicted win here for cha1n. But if I'm asking you, who is more ready for Exile, who would you think is?
Good question. I know that Effortless has been practicing a bit, but I have no clue about what cha1n's regimen has been like.
It was Effortless's pick, after all. That's the thing. Indeed. It was his pick.
So it could indeed be possible that Effortless is more prepared for this one, and that it just was a very deliberate strategy to be like, you know what, I need something to surprise these established top players with, so I'm going to go something that they might not know as well, and really put in the hours to know the map in and out.
Well, here we go. Exile makes its opportunity to appear here in Quake Pro League as now we start things off, checking things out from Effortless's point of view, but you can already see the kind of tricky navigation on this map. I've already seen so many death pits, more than most maps, and I'm curious to see if either of these two players can navigate it safely.
If anything, Ranger, played by cha1n, is going to be more useful when it comes to that. So many nice little orb tricks that are no doubt already discovered by these top level players. But we're getting a very slow, very calculated and cautious opening to this map. Neither player looking to overextend. And Effortless just slowly securing the Mega. Now the Heavy, both players switching items. Very little damage done so far.
But it is that patient man's game so far with Effortless. cha1n, I don't think, has a clear idea over where Effortless, I say was, definitely not is, because now he's found him. But Effortless happy to play it kind of careful for now. But now, this center point, you can already see the importance of the center point. Just sticking your ear to the ground, listening out. Looks like you've got a fair amount of pickups here that are, you know, able to be taken. If you just get that good bit of information over where they are, safely pick up somewhere they're not. And now the rail in the hands of Effortless again. Just to get a little bit. Nice little rocket shot there through the grate. But I think there is going to be a lot of kind of feeling each other out. You know, this early on a map like this.
Definitely expecting both players to just go looking for these rail angles, hoping for a slight opportunity or advantage to make a move on.
Oh,
that
that's
rocket.
Good.
Yeah. That gives cha1n the opportunity to make a move on Heavy, but he backs out at the last possible second. Hang on, Effortless has got a real opportunity and secures the first frag. Not entirely sure what happened with cha1n right there. Maybe he didn't have the exact timing, so he didn't want to take the risk of just committing to Heavy. But that allowed Effortless to just steal it away and get the first kill.
But once more, rail angles becoming really important, and you can feel they will definitely become so as we move forward onto this map. But it is Effortless putting himself in position for the next pickup. Has to be careful, though. That tri-bolt is raining down, trying to catch the rhythm of it, which is a good shout, actually. No, waits for the 3 shots to go, and then he pushes in and out just before cha1n can really challenge. But a big push! Effortless, I mean, suicide, yeah, but that was either going to be a +1 or a -1. It's going to be now an opportunity for cha1n to even things up. And not too shabby in terms of stack, either.
Back to 0 he goes. I don't think he was ready for that aggression quite yet, but quickly, again, taking the lead. Very low scoring game so far. I feel like Exile is the kind of map that can be played extremely aggressively, but also has just so many of those blocked lines of sight that it can be passive as well. How does cha1n keep doing this kind of rocket damage catch up? It always feels like Effortless is the one getting most out of these engagements, and then somehow cha1n lands this long-distance rocket and completely equalizes things once more.
I have always thoroughly enjoyed watching cha1n's Ranger for pretty much that reason. And he has these creative orbs, yeah, sure, but when you combine the rocket, which is, I think definitely said by many to be Ranger's star weapon, because of his ability to go in point blank, that passive helps him for the less stealth damage. cha1n puts them together and just creates a masterpiece. It's a lot of fun to watch. But Effortless now, the 1-0, able to do a little bit of damage there from the Mega that was just picked up, but there's a chunky delay between the Mega and the Heavy, so now Effortless looking for a bit more damage before he commits, almost getting a rocket out there, but cha1n able to avoid just a little bit. 5 seconds now until that Heavy spawns, and the question is, can cha1n shut it down? Looking for a rail, doesn't land the shot, understands, look, there's no point overextending, I'm going to back out now, and we'll try and go for plan B. Effortless, had a surprise rail, cha1n wasn't ready for it, but he's not able to hit the shot. That's some damage left on the table, and now we push in. cha1n springs the trap, and he's got an orb and a close range rocket. Just what we talked about, the less self-damage. You just don't have to worry about having the rocket out in that position.
That was indeed a beautiful play by cha1n, waiting around the corner. And then as Effortless charges in with the LG, cha1n is so quick to switch to the rockets and the orb, knowing that he can make the most out of those close combat engagements. Good amount of damage from the Canadian there as well. Still, Effortless with the higher stack.
He kind of got the objective there, right? Knowing he's going to take damage on the way, but the important thing was taking this Heavy away from cha1n, because now cha1n left having to take any lights that might exist. And Effortless, I do say, definitely an advantage in that respect. He's going to take the Mega, and that's going to, of course, shave off some cooldown time on those totems. cha1n getting a lovely call out, the teleport, good angle there. Effortless, again, looks for the rail, but he's consistently catching cha1n not ready for the angle, which I think might very much be kind of essence of the new map coming in, but Effortless can't land the shots. It's really unfortunate for him.
Effortless indeed missing a few too many of these rails that he absolutely should be landing.
I mean, it looks like, dare I say, it does look like Effortless is a bit more prepared. I can't recall cha1n having these kind of surprise rails in these situations. It's always Effortless being the one kind of ready for that angle, but he's just not getting the damage on deck, and it's tragic.
Effortless just has to be so careful of these surprise close quarter fights, because that is how cha1n is basically getting every single frag so far. He waits, Effortless comes around the corner, and he just jumps at him. Orb to rocket combo, and Effortless drops instantly. So I think Effortless, he just has to try and keep his opponent at arm's length, go for the LG, the rail, and try to make the most out of the positional plays.
In and out with the Heavy. No damage taken either, so that's a win-win there for cha1n, who with Orb in the hand is in a perfect position to get a ton of damage in this next fight, pushing in with the LG, stuff that Effortless is caught off guard with, so not able to return, taking too much damage to be comfortable with, and no totems ready. Even with that light, the cooldown is still not going to come back. cha1n swaps simply to the machine gun, knows it's all he needs, and now Effortless, fresh off the spawn. What do you do here? Because now cha1n running the cycle of the items, he's just about to take the Heavy, and he will. Effortless has a bit of thinking to do here, Lee.
Yeah, we started off very balanced matchup. Either player just securing maybe one item, and if they did get both, then the other was right there to punish them for it. But now for the past few minutes, cha1n has been extremely dominant, securing pretty much every single major. Effortless currently working with 11 of those. cha1n sitting at 15, so clearly an advantage for the Canadian. But just one frag of a difference. So all that Effortless needs to make up is that one situation going his way. Won't be this one, though.
It's the timing of it as well. I do like Effortless's choice. Having that timing on the Mega was the saving grace there. Being able to push forward, push cha1n away, force him away. And now, with the Mega in hand, that is kind of elements of this, I think. You're kind of caught in a really awkward position. Effortless was already ready for cha1n to be down there with the angle, and he just gets a bit of damage, puts the pressure on, cha1n tries to move, and then it's slippery feet here on the Icy Exile.
That almost felt intentional. cha1n knowing that he is basically done for in that situation, knowing that if he dies on that spot, he will respawn more towards the Heavy, which he's well aware is about to spawn. That could have been a very intentional suicide right there, basically, because he just walked off as well.
Also looking at cha1n's like player cam, I'd be inclined to agree as well. You know, I think it was very easy for me to look at it and assume he slipped off purely because of where he is on the map. But I think you're right, for sure. That's why I'm here and they're there. But as we now go 2-4, cha1n with the lead, and a comfortable lead at that, with how things are currently going, it's just going to be kind of hard, I think, for Effortless to chase him down for a minute and a half and get these 2 frags.
Good LG, pushing cha1n out of the room. He's even gonna leave up the Mega. I like the push from Effortless right there. If only he could have done more damage. A little bit more on the LG right there would have pushed his opponent back even further. He should have secured him both items and a frag. cha1n, really not all that healthy, but Effortless, he's lacking weapons. Doesn't have a rail, doesn't have rockets. Has to push in right now. This should be a frag, but hang on! The orb! Allowing cha1n to get away cleanly once more.
There's a chase down. Oh, Effortless misses the rail! The rail wasn't even necessary, but Effortless just trying so hard to close this one out. cha1n does catch him off guard, a little bit of bonus damage, and now 45 seconds for 1 frag right as the Mega spawns. Combine the Mega being taken with the rail, and this just became very realistic for Effortless. But the danger is that he doesn't have any armor, so this is going to be a scary chase. He was not ready for cha1n to double up and just come around that corner. Oh no, cha1n gets the better of him twice. Effortless was not ready 2 separate times there. Oh no, flee.
I was looking through Effortless's eyes
yeah,
right
so
there.
was I. So was
and
I.
He was already looking up, expecting his opponent to be going up the bounce pad, but cha1n just held his position right there and landed some disastrous damage. Now, I do understand why Effortless pushed that fight. Of course, time was running out, but he also knew that cha1n didn't have LG yet in that situation. He was well aware that he had denied the lightning gun and wanted to push that advantage. Unfortunately for him, cha1n with the double back, getting a beautiful frag and then taking it out of Effortless's hands. Well played, but a very close game.
Yeah, these end game stats, I mean, the damage was almost even, a couple of hundred for cha1n, but he had a few extra frags, right? So it makes sense. I had significantly more heavies. I think double heavies, actually, by the end of that game. But it was, you know, those closing moments again. Effortless played it so well, and he had the right idea every step of the way. Those rail angles, you know, through a teleporter or whatever, catching cha1n, not even ready for that angle. You know, I do think there are elements of the new map coming through in that regard. You know, clearly both players have practiced it and are ready because it is in the rotation, so it makes sense. But even still, I think that Effortless, as weird as it sounds, I think he could have had a bigger lead early than he had. And it's just very unfortunate for him. You know, I would have liked to have seen a couple more of those shots. They're difficult shots, you know, so I'm not going to be like, hey, he should have hit the shot, because it's hard. But there were opportunities that just weren't able to be taken.
Yep, indeed, a few missed shots too many. Effortless, if he had landed 1, maybe 2 more rails at just the right time, he would have been up another 2 frags before we entered that critical final moments of the game. Still, very good effort from the American. As you said yourself, he clearly has studied this map, saw some very clever angles, was well prepared for a lot of cha1n's move, but ultimately missing a few too many shots, and then when it mattered the most, unable to get the clutch comeback.
Yeah, it was the final moments of that map, you know, where Effortless was so close to being able to even things out, bring us into a sudden death. It was just, you know, for lack of a better term, it was the fights. cha1n being at that close range every time, just getting the damage on deck. The final section where he surprised Effortless by sticking around not once but twice in the exact same fight.
Yeah.
Both times Effortless, you know, I think Spectator, we were looking at it through cha1n's point of view, which does make sense, but Flea and I think we were still on Effortless looking for the comeback, right? And both times he went around that corner, he had rail out. He was not ready for cha1n to be point blank, and that really was where the game came to a rather abrupt end, and that was just cha1n having the better read, right? Just making the right call out. But not Exile now, as we go into something a lot more familiar. It's going to be Awoken, which is actually a map that we have seen Effortless be very comfortable on in the past. It will be the battle of medium versus heavy, though, as Keel for cha1n, it looks like. And cha1n probably feeling pretty good after that first map, because if there was a map of all 3 of these that I would have predicted Effortless maybe taking a win here, probably would have been Exile. And now that hasn't been the case, we could very well see the 3-0 come into fruition.
Yeah, fully inclined to agree right there. I also think that cha1n, as we discussed before the match even started, really just wants to make a move once again after losing to Nosfa last week. He wants to
Yep.
prove his worth, reassert himself as one of the absolute best players in NA, and this is just really looking like it. Some strange plays sometimes on the first map, Exile. I also feel like cha1n just didn't have LG for so much of that map. I don't know if you checked, but very often I looked at his point of view and he just didn't have the lightning gun. Effortless did a pretty good job at denying it, even in that last fight that ultimately went awry. But still, cha1n looking a bit shaky, I feel like, as you said yourself, right? Effortless perhaps a bit more prepared for that first map, but now we are back on common ground, right? This is a map that both of these players have played dozens, if not hundreds of times in the past. So I do think that cha1n is probably going to be able to get a 2-0 after this one.
I feel like it's always quite hard to say. When you see a map that's kind of new in the rotation, and we know that everyone grinds, everyone practices, but with a map that is like the latest addition, it is so hard to be like, is it player form? Is it map unfamiliarity? Is it a combination of both? Like when we go into a map like Awoken, I think we get a clearer idea over whether that wake up call for cha1n last week has kind of led to more training, more grind. I'm going to be honest, I'm not particularly sure actually how much he has been playing in between, but he seemed very self-aware that he needs to re-knuckle down, and I have absolute faith that he can and will, because that's how he became one of the greatest in Americas for a strong reason. And it was that dedication putting forward. Now, as we go into Awoken, Effortless is going to be more familiar as well. I think he was prepared for Exile, but he's got his movement, he's got his crouch slide, he's got a map where crouch slide can absolutely be favored. He's just going up against a brick wall with grenades. So it's still going to be a matter of cha1n having that brute force. And we'll see how this map goes as the warm-up is coming to a close. 7 seconds left on that one. And we'll be jumping into map 2 here, cha1n and Effortless. We go back to familiar ground, Flea.
I think that Effortless probably is pretty happy with this pick as well. Oh, taking a lot of damage from the get-go right there. Good rocket from cha1n, but I think Effortless is one of those players who really loves having mobility advantages over his opponents, right? Having that crouch slide, whereas cha1n is really one of the slowest champions in the entire game, that is going to help him out a lot. He just has to be careful not to get caught in cha1n's clutches, because if he gets up close and personal, those grenades, that rocket that we saw do so much damage on map 1, that is just going to tear into him.
It does further exaggerate the importance of the rail, and Effortless is actually able to go in. All guns blazing, and that rail is going to be an easy shot there. Ready for the jump pad. Simple little catch there. Effortless, 1 frag in the lead. In a pretty early ground too. Now cha1n has to play that next objective, getting weapons on board. Only a rocket and an LG to work with at close range, not too bad, but when he's forced to retreat, he's not going to be able to get much else on the table. Some okay damage there from the second rocket for cha1n. The important thing is that he's able to get himself at heavy. As Effortless disengages to take the Mega now, both able to take a major item, but cha1n still lacking a rail. And Effortless pushing forward, really aggressive, but having to show so much respect. I like how Effortless has simply bullied cha1n away from that center point. Because again, cha1n, he doesn't really have any weapons to fight at this range apart from an LG, and Effortless gets him again, Flea.
Effortless, really strong opening right now. The downside, though, is that both major items are on the exact same respawn time. Out comes the peeker, and that will be enough. Effortless, can he get over to heavy on time? Does he even want to? cha1n will be the one to pick it up at Effortless. He wants to do some more damage. He knows that cha1n has nothing in terms of weaponry to work with. He's gonna pounce on his opponent, but he's gotta be careful, though. Zoned into a corner, and cha1n with the long-distance rockets will get himself that first frag of this map.
Oh, another play there from cha1n. Caught a little bit surprised, perhaps. But as Mega spawns, looking for that rail angle, you can tell cha1n, he really wants to nullify some of that Mega. Not the end of the world for him, though, as he does have... I mean, just look at that armor. The strength of Keel's defense.
Effortless, though, doing twice as much damage as cha1n right now. Really dominating in that front. But those rockets, Peeker coming out, can he still make it up? Effortless, he needs more damage. Both players pretty weak, but it's Effortless who's down to a few points of health.
Oh, that was... I think Effortless made that as awkward as he possibly could. There really wasn't much else. Apart from landing that rail, which was obviously a tricky shot, because you don't want to put yourself in harm's way for too long. That was really all that could have happened. Instead, is Effortless getting a bunch of damage on cha1n. Keel, too tall, able to get that LG comfortably.
That was actually an incredibly smart play from Effortless right there. cha1n was expecting him to just go for heavy, so he was waiting with the railgun out, which Effortless didn't have. So instead, Effortless just went balls to the walls, aggressive, pushing with LG, leaving up the heavy behind him, and cha1n was completely unprepared for that. His rockets didn't connect, and so Effortless got himself a frag, but now, again, getting caught in a bad position. One more rail will do it.
Oh,
cha1n, yeah.
Yeah,
cha1n.
I think the moment Effortless saw him go through the teleporter, he knew his fate was sealed. There really was nothing he could do there. There wasn't even any terrain to kamikaze into quick enough to get away from cha1n going through the teleporter. Oh no, the push again. Looking like it's going to be even here. Flea, 4-4 imminent, but Effortless, if he can somehow escape, he's still nowhere near comfortable. But a respectable amount of damage. Wait a minute. What? How did you find that, Effortless? You madman!
Effortless clutching on through, but he's got to be careful. I do feel like despite the movement advantage that he has, he keeps getting himself caught in these really bad situations that allows cha1n to get an easy frag. So Effortless gotta be perhaps a little bit more cautious with how he maneuvers around the map, because cha1n managing to catch him out quite frequently.
Oh my good lord, cha1n just having, simply put, more stack than you in that situation. I'm still surprised that Effortless found that frag down near Super Shotgun. I mean, I know cha1n gets another frag here, but that was super impressive. The problem is, maybe Effortless feeling the momentum a bit too much as he goes right into cha1n the first time, and now cha1n able to pick up a second, making it 5-5. Effortless doesn't have a lot of weapons. He's only really got an LG so far on top of that tri-bolt. No rail, no rocket. Oh, and that rail landing. It is going to be tricky to get in and out. He had to try and take that mega. Cannot allow cha1n to just pick it up for free.
cha1n once again in the lead. Starting to get into his groove. Damage gap a lot smaller than it was near the beginning as well. Effortless, I think he has to be careful that he doesn't let the speed control him, because that's something that you sometimes see when players use these really fast champions, is that you just get so comfortable zooming around the map that your opponent is going to start setting up these traps and get you caught in bad situations that you simply can't get out of. So Effortless has got to be mindful of that, of course.
That's that rail coming up from cha1n once again, looking for a second shot. That one's a little bit tricky, that one! Able to land at the very least and won't need a rail anymore as Effortless able to take the heavy, so at the very least was able to deny that from cha1n, but had to concede a frag in the process. Now 2 in the lead here for cha1n. And not a lot of Awoken left, it has to be said. Just about 4 minutes. Nice little reactionary. Change to rail, get that mid-air. These grenades always available, and now Effortless caught again. There's no way he can stick around for this mega. There's no way, and caught on the jump pad. Oh, dearie me. With the way things are going, cha1n's going to run away with this, and he knows that Effortless has just spawned. He's only going to have a rocket, realistically.
The railgun has really been cha1n's star weapon these past few minutes, and that makes it very difficult for Effortless, because on the one hand, he knows that he can't get up close and personal. He's playing Keel. If he gets close, he's minced meat, so he cannot take those rocket fights. On the other hand, if cha1n is landing these ridiculous rails over and over again, you can't go for the rail fight either, because you will get destroyed no matter what. So Effortless is now getting deleted off the map, really unable to find any sort of way back into this, as cha1n is looking incredibly dominant. This should be another frag for the Canadian as he extends his lead over and over. Is even going to leave up heavy to dish out some more damage.
Knowing that he'll have enough time to go towards Mega. Even now, arguably, just pushes in, full speed ahead, and Effortless can't challenge. He has absolutely nothing to his name, and another rail coming out from cha1n. Full control of the items, all the weapons. Effortless, I mean, what has he got? He's got an LG that he spawned near, and that's it. There's no hope at the moment. This is going to be a really tricky scenario for Effortless to pull back from. Doesn't have a lot of time to make this either. cha1n, I'm not even factoring in that when cha1n spawns, he's going to have a massive stack. So getting a frag as he spawns, even if you kill him now, is going to be so difficult as cha1n gets another one. Double the frags that Effortless is currently working with through the teleporter. The rocket launcher is all Effortless has. Can he get a frag with it? Watch out for the pineapples, they're everywhere. And this is looking kind of rough now for Effortless. Everything has just been perfect for cha1n. I mean, Effortless, it's been a fair few minutes since he's even touched a railgun.
Yeah. cha1n completely dictating the pace of this game. He's using those rocket jumps so effectively as well. You sometimes see Effortless just confident, like, oh, okay, cha1n's over at rocket, I can just go around past Mega. Nope, cha1n with the rocket jump out of nowhere, catching him off guard. And Effortless, this is GG, I feel like. 90 seconds left to go. Even though he's got the superior speed, cha1n, that stack, the aim that he's showcasing right now, Effortless just can't rival that.
And he's going to spawn with it as well. You have to get 6 frags here just to make it even. cha1n is going to spawn with way more than you, on average. As now, once more victory lap here for cha1n, who's just played incredibly well this time round. Looking a lot more comfortable, as you quite rightly said, that rail being his absolute star weapon. And even though, you know, we're not really looking at accuracy for the rail, because he's sitting on 45%, we're looking at damage dealt. He's dealt not only double the damage of Effortless, but he's dealt 1.4, closer to 1.5k of the railgun alone.
Effortless, on the other hand, had a really good damage lead when we first started out. Effortless had like twice as much damage done, around 1 or 2 minutes in. But now it is cha1n who has overtaken his opponent in terms of that statistic. And if we look at the items picked up as well, Effortless sitting at 10 major items, whereas cha1n 24 combined.
That's quite a lot.
That's a decent amount.
That's quite a lot, Flea. But now a GG is coming through. Effortless getting some frags at the last minute, but really to no avail, as the win was dealt a couple of minutes ago here for cha1n. And that will be now a 2-0, an opportunity to move on for a 3-0. But Effortless having such a strong start, but it all just starts to crumble as cha1n locks in that control. And really just keeping Effortless away from everything that he desperately wanted. You know, that railgun, like I said, it was about, God, that must have been a good 3 minutes in the later stages of that map before he even looked at a railgun. The one time he was about to pick it up, cha1n hits 2 rails, and it's like, oh, okay, I guess I can't stick around now. Dies anyway. And that's just the rest of the map. That stack advantage coming in hot on top of just rails combined. That's hard. When you fight a heavy champion who doesn't miss, what do you do?
Indeed, very little. I discussed this during the game itself, right? You can't get up close because you will lose against those grenades, the rockets in the stack. But if you can't take the long distance fight either because your opponent is just reigning supreme with the rail, what is left for you to do? Very little to work with at all. And it just becomes even more impressive what you said, right? The railgun denial, it's one thing if you manage to do so and you're playing a really fast and mobile champion yourself, but Effortless is playing Keel, one of the absolute slowest champions in the entire game, and still managing to just cut Effortless off time and time again. Really well played, the Canadian, clearly showing that he is better than the performance he put up last week.
I mean, often the best teacher is a loss, isn't it? Nothing teaches you better than an opportunity to, as we say in the business, go back into the lab, you know? You just go and refine, improve. And when you win all the time, I mean, you don't get as many good lessons, do you? And Effortless, unfortunately, off a wonderful start, it has to be said. He was going out swinging, getting some fantastic frags, some real clutch frags, in fact. It just wasn't quite enough to pull off the final map here as cha1n's able to get a 2-0. And now we enter map 3, Veil of Nath. But again, Effortless still has to give it that 110%, because a win here is still better than nothing. But more importantly, like I said, we've seen so many times later in the stage, someone's like, oh, if I won that one map, maybe things would be different. Well, now is an opportunity to make sure that situation does not happen.
Indeed, and Veil of Nath might just be that opportunity. Effortless will be rocking the BJ Blazkowicz versus cha1n running the Ison. Ison, a staple pick on this map, right? Same goes for Galena. But then the BJ, we saw Baze make excellent use of that champion earlier, so I don't really think that there's either player who has a clear advantage when it comes to the champion pick. Both are extremely good on this map.
Now, it looks like we're about to load back into this next map, so we've got a couple of minutes, but Again, just to remind anyone that might be tuning in, make sure you get involved in the Quake Pro League social media. Make sure you're following Quake Champions on Twitter, hashtag Quake Pro League and all your social platforms. Spread the word. You know, this is a good situation for Quake so far, and the players are still giving it their all. We just had that Stage 1 finals, and now as we enter Stage 2 already, everyone's trying to get refreshed back into the fray. We have the new maps coming out, and we have some new opponents, you know, thanks to those relegation situations as we went from Stage 1. We just saw Garpy up in here, wasn't quite able to get a win here, base a 3-0 over the Bulldog, but an opportunity now for Effortless to prevent the second 3-0 of the day, because as we go into Vale of Nath, we've got a rather classic matchup on our hands. We have the cha1n and the BJ, two champions that we see all too often on Vale.
Yep.
And I'm curious to see if he's able to stop that sweep from cha1n.
This is his last opportunity to do so. I think Effortless, we've seen it in the first two maps. There were these moments of brilliance, really clever plays. He just needs to be able to do so consistently as we are loading into this map. Last opportunity for Effortless to secure himself a win here, and we're starting off on his point of view as well.
Now Effortless, already access to the dual wield with the LG, so not a terrible spawn to have, but you're not going to see the fight almost instantly break out, right? You know, we kind of control each half of the map. Let me take these weapons, you take those. I'll have a little bit of patience here, Effortless. Patience is the #1 goal here, because he's just looking for information. Looking for... Oh, able to hear a little bit more spam coming forward, so a rough idea over where cha1n currently is. Heavy's been taken, which means he kind of has a tricky job to do. cha1n was looking to push forward and maybe make his presence known towards the Mega, looking for another rail, but no one home, as he quite rightly will disengage and just back up, concede the Mega for now. And we go into plan B. Tries to chase it through. Actually positioning himself near Heavy, actually. cha1n taking a fair amount of damage at the start there.
Big delay between the items as well. Heavy is about to spawn. Effortless, is he going to be able to make a move on it? And then Mega 10 seconds later. Biggest issue for Effortless right now is the fact that he doesn't have a railgun, so he cannot go for these long distance engagements. He wants to make a push here, but this is always risky. Looks like cha1n will be the first one to back off, and that allows Effortless, the American player, to get both of the major items. This is a really good start for him.
I like that he saved the dual wield for that exact moment. You know, not just using it because it feels like the right time, right there, not having a rail. You need something that's going to stop cha1n from just pushing in and challenging. And in that instance, the LG is something that cha1n will have no choice but to respect. He is able to get in and out, though. Take the Heavy. And now he's able to push in. No choice but to dedicate to that close-range fight. You cannot retreat and shoot those defensive rails. cha1n will chase you down, get a good call out on the spawn as well. And now, right as Effortless appears, cha1n gets that bonus damage unreturned. And we're pretty even. You know, cha1n sitting on a bit more armor. But more importantly, he's towards Mega. So he definitely has advantage here.
Effortless just messed up the weapon choice in that engagement, and again, caught with the railgun out when cha1n gets up close and personal. Both times, right? He just has the wrong weapon out, and cha1n catching him by surprise, and this is very reminiscent of what we saw in Exile, right? Again, only that time, cha1n obviously had the Ranger to work with, so the Orb to close the distance, but now Effortless is just getting caught off surprise again, and now cha1n, very low on health. This might be an opportunity for Effortless to get a frag, but I don't really know if he was aware just how low cha1n was. cha1n was literally on 1 point of health, but Effortless didn't push his advantage and allowed his opponent to pick up Mega and maybe now Heavy as well.
Nope. Perfect timing!
Yeah.
There's that timing there from Effortless. I think he was erring on the side of caution when he hit cha1n with those two rails, you know, opting to disengage, back up, take a bunch of health and armor, and then eventually able to fight, or in this case, taking it away from cha1n. A fair old while till dual wield comes back, though, so you have to rely on things the old-fashioned way. As cha1n, caught around the corner. Almost feels like, although the turret soaked up a bunch of that damage, he was so close to it, he took the damage anyway.
Just like what we saw earlier. First time we got to see Vale. Control switching a fair bit. Now it's once again Effortless, dominating the pace of the game. Getting himself some frags on the board. I think if he can keep this up, he might actually be able to secure himself the win. He's got a good position onto Mega, and then a quick route onto Heavy as well, but he needs to ensure that he can keep dealing the damage as well.
Keeping control of these items as well. Heavy's just about to spawn. Picked up by cha1n. Not a lot of health to work with, though, so this is still advantage Effortless. Oh, I like that play. The rocket jump into the immediate, but no! Caught in the air, and now Effortless takes a bunch of damage. cha1n able to somehow come off better in that exchange. You'd never have guessed it. Effortless got a fantastic prediction rocket. Rocket jump into the bottom angle, knowing cha1n's going to run down there, yet somehow cha1n hits so much LG that Effortless is forced to kind of put us back to this neutral situation, right? Now here comes the Mega for Effortless. cha1n not able to get this heavy, but with Effortless sitting on no armor, neither player with armor, but it'll be Effortless taking the frag. Wow, that was a long, drawn-out fight, but it's good for Effortless, who was able to take that win.
Definitely was expecting that to be a quick and clean kill from Effortless. Fumbled rockets a little bit, but still coming out on top. Now Mega behind him as well. I love the positioning he's taking right there, completely catching cha1n off guard. This is the kind of damage that he needs. Liking the peek here as well, knowing that he's got Mega to fall back on. Effortless. Really clever plays right now. I'm loving what I'm seeing.
But this is a side of Effortless that I don't think we really kind of saw all the way back at the beginning of the Pro League. You know, for a good chunk of time, Effortless was always quite aggressive, very movement-focused. But this kind of more methodical, heavy focused on positions. Unfortunately, not quite able to get the frag there, but I still think this is a cleaner Effortless that we're now seeing in Stage 2, Season 2 even. And it's really great to see progression. As now cha1n, weak, forced to really stick around and just try and get a frag there. You know, if he gets a skin of his teeth, he's able to at least get the Mega. Not quite able to do it though, as Effortless keeps that lead, 3-2.
Effortless, no doubt wishing we were already 4 minutes further ahead into this game. He's got himself a precious but precarious lead to hold on to. And he's lost positioning as well. cha1n has got the better outlook to get Mega. This is so risky going up the bounce pad. Luckily for him, cha1n out with the wrong weapon. This is a relentless push. Effortless, can he get the frag? He's just a tiny bit more, but he's out of LG. cha1n picked up the small armor.
Oh, he's narrowly not railable. Narrowly. Being able to pick up that light health bubble combined with the BJ passive gave him just enough.
Oh!
Get psyched. Double rail. And
Yes,
he has
indeed.
a 2 frag lead here. Effortless. Really that ruthless aggression sticking to him.
Effortless. He's starting to believe. Ketchup. He's starting to believe in himself, but cha1n wants to undo that so quickly. As he goes up the bounce pad. Easy fodder for that LG.
Looking at how hard you have to work for a single frag here against cha1n. Effortless. Oh no, the rocket! Watch out! No, the rail angle! Oh no, Effortless, he's worked his backside off to get that 2 frag lead, and just in the blink of an eye, snatched away, and now we're back to even, and cha1n in control. That is really, really, really feels bad, man, for Effortless.
Still, it's all tied up. Effortless, absolutely not out of the game just yet.
I
He can
believe.
draw this out as long as he needs to. You believe? I'm kind of starting to believe a little bit myself, but Effortless, he cannot make mistakes like that. Pushing out with the nail gun. cha1n holding his position. And now just looping back around to Mega. Effortless, unable to secure either of the major items, it looks like. This is not good. cha1n getting comfortable on the map, and that is the last thing you want to see.
In the closing moments, a rather decent chunk of damage dealt out by that turret as well, as cha1n drops it immediately back through. Effortless drops again. And this, what was once a lead, has now slipped away from him and then some. cha1n, 2 frags in the lead, 2 minutes on the clock. And that rocket just doing 100 damage because it feels like it. As now, cha1n, this is momentum and a half. He has almost completely max stack. He's got all the weapons, he's got all the ammo. Effortless with nothing. A nice preemptive rocket, but it's not going to be enough to sway cha1n from still sitting around. You're looking for a rail, lovely shot, actually. And it just continues to be difficult for Effortless. It's fallen apart in the closing minutes, Flea. I feel so bad.
I think this is a bit of a recurring pattern when it comes to Effortless. Pretty strong, if not great openers, solid mid-game as well. But in those final 3 to 4 minutes, that is usually when it collapses. Quake is a game that's extremely heavy on endurance. You've got to keep your focus and stay ready from the very first moment till the last. And I think that Effortless, that late game, is arguably one of the weakest aspects of his game just yet.
But as we push forward now, dual wield in hand, right as cha1n picks up her Mega. Able to still somehow get that frag. You know, he had the stack advantage, even with that dual wield. Having the Mega as well certainly helps matters. 50 seconds on the clock now for Effortless to kind of just run the cycle and just continue to analyze and think, how can we do better? Because Effortless, he had a hard opponent here in cha1n. And I think it's great that he was able to make the map so close in the first place. There have been real moments of greatness from Effortless in this series. And against the likes of cha1n, that is no easy task. But cha1n's able to just keep this absolute momentum in the final stages of Veil. And it's looking like he's in pretty top form himself. A great set. I would have liked to have seen a 2-1, and I think a 2-1 was likely. You know, with how Effortless has been playing today, we definitely could have. But yeah, not meant to be.
Good defensive plays from cha1n as well. I like how he just set up at the top of the teleporter right there with the turret out, waiting for cha1n to come on through and then forcing him to divide his attention between two sources of damage, and then doing enough of his own to escape cleanly. So that will be cha1n, the Canadian player, securing this one without dropping a single map. Well played to cha1n. Back into it after that loss to Nosfa last week, but also we cannot count out Effortless. Yes, he didn't win a map, but he put out some damn fine Quake.
He really did, especially, you know, we kind of started to see elements of that on that first map, and I know the second map was a bit rough, and that was, I definitely think, a combination of just cha1n playing incredibly well, and the fact that he picked a good champion going into it. You know, you're confident in your accuracy and your damage, and you have more stack than everyone else. I mean, how can you go wrong? But then this final map, Effortless, really able to fight for it until the bitter end. cha1n taking the momentum in the closing minutes, but you know, for 3/4 of that map, it was incredibly competitive and really hard to call. You know, for a big chunk there, you feel like Effortless. Oh, but I still stand true that I think this is still a better Effortless than we started with in Pro League. I do think there has been progression here, and cha1n, he's still one of the best players in Americas for a good reason.
Effortless pleading with the camera, but it won't change the outcome. But indeed, you are very right. Effortless has improved significantly. I still remember by the end of the first season, when it became known that there would indeed be a follow-up season of the Quake Pro League, Effortless really made the decision, you know what? I don't just want to keep fighting for survival. I want to just do well within the league. And I think that we're starting to see the results of that training, right? If he had played someone other than cha1n or one of the non-top players, I think that very few players in the league could have stood up against that performance today.
So, on that note, we are already well into today's action. And any Avec fans out there, you want to make sure you're tuning into this next one, as it's Avec versus CNZ. We're going to go for a quick break, set up our next match. Thank you so much for joining us here so far for Quake Pro League. And when we come back, we will see Avec versus CNZ. Take it away.